Okay, I want to welcome everyone to our Zoom seminar series. Uh, we are just about at 7:30 now, so we'll go ahead and get started. So we appreciate everyone coming and looking forward to an interesting program tonight. Just a few preliminaries. We do ask that, unless otherwise advised, that you do uh, put any questions that you have in the chat, and we will reserve some time at the end of the session for those questions to be reviewed and for Adam to give some answers to those. He may choose to include you at various points, and we'll follow his lead on that. So. Uh, but to give you a little information here about Adam, he is a professional botanist and ecologist with over 30 years experience working to better understand and protect the flora of the southeastern United States. Currently, he serves as a vegetation ecologist within the Tennessee Department of Environmental Conservation, where he works to protect the biodiversity across Tennessee by documenting natural plant communities, facilitating applied research, and working in partnership with others to move the needle on conservation. Adam lives in Knoxville with his wife Claire, daughters Annabelle and Fern, and two dogs, Willa and Nikki. He says he loves to garden, both vegetable gardens and native plants. He loves to stay in shape and get together with friends. Among his goals for the future are to be better at playing guitar and speaking Spanish. So if you get any
Awesome.
questions in Spanish, Adam, it sounds like you'll be well prepared. So
We'll see.
our topic tonight is Kogan grass. The scientific name of that is Imperator cylindrica. Adam describes Kogan grass as one of the worst weeds in the world. And this invasive plant species is native to Asia and was actually brought into our country uh, to be used as a packing materials, not knowing that it was going to become a major invasive plant. And it has been able to advance quite a bit in the southernmost states and recently has been documented at a few sites in Tennessee, which is the reason he and others have sprung into action to try to eradicate it before it gets out of control. So tonight's presentation is stopping the spread of Kogan grass. We'll go with Adam on an in-depth journey where we'll learn what's at risk, how to identify Kogan grass, to whom to report a possible infestation, and how we're going to work collectively to stop this species before it becomes well established here in Tennessee. So, Adam, with that, I will turn it over to you.
Well, thanks very much for having me here tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with everyone. I hope to have a fun, fast-paced, interactive journey into the world of Kogon grass. Um, so for me, I work with the Tennessee Heritage Program, who's uh, one of our big functions is to keep a database of threatened and endangered plant species, native plants that occur across the state of Tennessee. So I do that. We I work on that data set. I work with our natural areas managers like Alan Trentley to help think about management of sites where they work. But I'm a part of this bigger conservation team. And I think invasive plants like Kogon grass, it's not always a charismatic topic. And I think it's just, we go out in the field to look for the beautiful trillium, the mountain laurel that I see there. So we go out there to see these things that we love and we associate with the place that we love. Maybe it's the mountains in Tennessee, maybe it's the hills of West Tennessee. There's lots of great things across our state. But this Kogon grass, this is one of these relatively few invasive species that has the power to change ecosystems as a whole. So I'm going to talk about that tonight. um, and hopefully give people some tools to observe this plant and tell you where to report it. And we'll go out and spray it. We'll take care of it. Uh, all right. I hope this is going to be the best presentation you've ever seen in your whole life. That's my goal. I don't know if I'm going to succeed. We'll try. Now, let me share my screen first off. Hopefully, I'll do it right. Beginning. We go.
Success.
It's you all see it now? We good?
Yes.
All right. Tremendous. And who's this person on the first slide that we all see and we know? He's on this call. All right, there's Alan Trentley. Here we are. Here's Alan and I on a West Tennessee excursion to the Wolf River, um, the Ghost River State Natural Area on the Wolf River. And what do we see along the side of the road in West Tennessee? The Cogongrass. Um, so we were appalled to see this in an area that it was not previously known. And this just illustrates, these things are popping up now all across the state of Tennessee, and we need to be vigilant and think about it. So I like to tell sto excuse me. I like to tell stories about things to help us kind of think about where we are in the world and kind of how to move forward. And I was listening to, as you might imagine, I'm statewide, right? So I travel all over the state of Tennessee and I listen to a lot of podcasts. Um, Sometimes I listen to audiobooks, but sometimes I listen to podcasts. And this economics podcast I really like. It's like I don't get paid by them, but I think it's a great podcast. So I'm going to plug it a little bit. But this Freakonomics podcast had a really kind of entertaining bit, a several part series on rats and why we don't like rats, and the economics behind it, and how the city of New York, or can the city of New York win its war on rats. Um, and it was pretty funny and interesting, kind of the dynamic of it. And I thought it was applicable here. So the brown rat, people call it the Norway rat or common rat, but it's now accepted that it's not from Europe, it's not from Norway, it's from Central Asia. As a biologist, I think it's important to be accurate with these things. But it is on every continent except Antarctica, and it's been in the United States, in North America for 270 years, so something like that. But today they estimate 3 million rats live in New York City. I myself loved when I visited New York City, but maybe those rats um, put some people off. But there has been a renewed effort that's been in the news a fair amount earlier this year about population control of these rats, which has increased 50% in the last 15 years or so. But I think it's important as we move forward talking about like species are what they are. So we need to think about how those species evolved over time, and that kind of informs our control strategy. So the rats everywhere, right? New York City has 3 million of them. They're on every continent except Antarctica. And but one thing is really interesting. Alberta, Canada does not have any breeding populations of these brown rats. And you ask yourself, how can that possibly be? How can this species that's so invasive, that's on every continent of the world, that's a fixture of urban areas across the planet, how's it not in Alberta, Canada? Well, you might say, well, it's a pretty rural state, which is true, but there are also some big cities there. But what really happened was when brown rat was moving across Canada, the administration within Alberta didn't want those that to become established because it was an agricultural threat mainly. That's the main reason. But formal rat control immediately started in around 1950 in Alberta, Canada. And ever since, there's been sustained public education efforts, sustained eradication efforts, such that now there's many misreports. So that they over-report brown rats in Alberta, Canada. You know why? Because no one's ever seen them. They don't even know what they look like. So out of the 500 or so uh, reports of brown rats in Canada that administrators get every year, a very small percentage, 30 or 40 are the real thing. And then they send people into action to control the rat. But thought of as like people's responsibility or duty to report this and stay on top of it because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Okay. So this is some like kind of old data, but the curve is down and to the right. We want our 401ks or retirement accounts to go up and to the right. But if you're talking about rat populations, down and to the right is a lot better. So I bring this up. The reason I talk about it, it's not because I'm part of a war on rats necessarily, but that success is possible even with these entrenched invasive species like the brown rat. So you might say, well, I wonder why they were successful. Well, the biggest reasons is they got started early. They were there since the beginning. And luckily, with Cogongrass, that's in Tennessee where we are. We're early stages of infestation where uh, positive impacts can still be made. Oh yeah. I am going to try to reorient my screen so I can see the chat. Okay, we're good now. So maybe has anyone on the call, don't have to answer if you don't like, but has anyone spent time in the Deep South and seen this plant? You can just feel free to enter in the chat if you want. But in Grand Bay, so Mobile County, Alabama, is where this was first introduced, right? In the 1912, a little over 100 years ago. And it's like a lot of these, it's like a packing material. It was introduced elsewhere in Mississippi and Florida. Maybe they thought cattle would graze on it, which cattle do not. Um, but in Mobile, Alabama, if you ever have the good fortune to go there, it's a great town. But it is ubiquitous. Like every interchange on the highway, all along the roadside, within every pine plantation. That's a little hyperbolic, but it's thousands and thousands of acres or this monoculture of this species. It spreads very rapidly by seeds from this very fluffy, kind of beautiful white flower that you see there. It spreads underground by rhizomes, and so equipment of all sorts just moves it around, both from forest products industry and construction equipment. It's kind of a big deal. But it's really bad for everything. So some invasive species, it's a fixture of the horticulture industry. So the horticulture industry likes a little reticent to come out against it. Some things hunters like to plant for a food plot. But in this case, like everybody hates it. It's the worst. It's a terrible species. Nobody likes it. I mean, I guess somebody might, but I don't know. We'll just say nobody likes it. But the important thing really is the biodiversity loss is pronounced where this species really takes root. Uh, Alan says Georgia Island has successfully eradicated rats. It's part of the world's largest rodent eradication project. I like that. All right, moving on. Um, there's a lot of ways to talk about how bad it is. This was an economic analysis along private forest landowners in Florida, cost $35 million a year to control this species. This is where the infestations are really bad. They have the problem. We don't have the problem yet. So I pulled this population data for Kogon grass from the EdMaps, which is an invasive species tracking platform on the World Wide Web earlier this year. And the little numbers in the red circles indicate number of populations for like where you are in the world. So you can see Alabama has a lot, Mississippi has a lot, Florida has a lot. But like you don't really, where are we not seeing any on here? We don't see any in Tennessee. Okay. So as far as everyone knows, there's very little Kogon grass in Tennessee. Okay. Here's a little web viewer that we're maintaining now as a joint effort between the Tennessee Division of Forestry and my group in the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. It's a little small, um, but we see here these 2006 over here in Gatlinburg, 2006 over here in West Tennessee, the one in Gatlinburg I know was a part of landscaping in the city of Gatlinburg, which was eradicated. The one in West Tennessee, Alan may have more information about this than me, but was also questionably or like maybe part of landscaping at a person's residence, also eradicated. But then in the last couple of years, it's kind of started to pop up uh, all along, well, throughout Tennessee. There's a Knoxville record that I identified at a golf course in 2023. There was a up at Big South Fork, National Park Service unit along the side of the road, 2024. Uh, so then those Western populations, which we both found last year in 2024, it's kind of like starting to show up all over the place. Along roadsides is where you're going to see it. But people thought it was just going to predictably move up interstate corridors from the south, and that really hasn't been the case. We did just get a report along I-75 north of Chattanooga, which we haven't been able to confirm yet. But so we just need to be paying attention. So far, uh, it's, there's one in Oak Ridge in 24 as well. All these have been treated at least once from our what we're calling early detection rapid response group of folks. We sprayed herbicide on all these, which is not going to be the end of it, but it's a great first step. So that's where we are. And you can see it seems to be. I'm a little concerned. I started spending time in the Deep South about 6 years ago and started really learning this plant. Um, a pretty big number of these populations are me, about half of them, the me seeing this plant. So I think once we all get more eyes on it, we'll all start to see it, and that's what the point of this whole exercise here. Okay, I had a great video here. This was an Instagram video that I was asked a friend who runs the Native Habitat Project on Instagram, and that guy, Kyle, he gets like a lot of views on videos. So I thought maybe we would have a cool video and he would share it, which he did. It got like 100,000 views or something. Um, Not because of me, because people, that's definitely not why. This popular Instagram guy did it. So unfortunately, we tried before. We really made an effort. The sound doesn't play, so I'm gonna narrate it. Okay, so I'm gonna act like it was me last year, and we'll just see how it goes. Okay, but this gives you a view for what it looks like. This is all right, good. You can't hear it, right?
No.
Okay. All right. It's how thick this grows here. The grass is super thick. It really just literally chokes everything out. So you look at the ground level there. There's like no space in between anything. Uh, and where the Kogan grass grows, there's like literally nothing else growing in there. So prediction it's along a roadside, which is how Alan and I saw it when we were driving by. And one of the most diagnostic characters of this species is this like leaves come up from the base at the ground, but there's this white midrib. It's like really windy, so I can't show you here. It comes to focus. Yeah, there it goes. There's a white mid vein all along the whole series of this long leaf. All right, we're gonna move on. I could actually hear the sound. It was very distracting for me, for me to talk over it. Okay, but here's the other thing that's really diagnostic. Often this thing kind of sits around for a couple years until it gets enough energy to flower. So you might, that's when it's really hard to ID because there's just a few sprigs of grass. But when it starts setting up these flowers in May or June, it's very diagnostic because there's nothing else that looks like that. There's some different things we'll talk about later that flower at different times of year or sort of look like it, but not really. So when I was IDing this grass in the lab to be like really sure that's what it was, we have under a microscope there's these lights and they're really really bright. They get hot, so there's a fan. So the fan from the lights picks these seeds up with this chaff on the bottom, and they just kind of like fly up in the room where I was looking under the microscope. So they're so mobile on the air, and that's one of the reasons it can spread so intensely. So the flowers, yeah, very, very diagnostic. Leaves. This mid vein thing can be more white, like it is on the right, or it can be a little bit less so, like it is on the left. But either way, the leaves are really long and kind of come from the base of the plant. Uh, that's kind of a view of that here. So you can think of like other species of grass where you have a stem and the leaves kind of come up as the stem goes off. This is not like that. The stem is like really short and the leaves all come from the base. Um, I talked to this guy, the superintendent at this golf course, a little while ago, and he was actually pretty interested. This is like a pertinent point for us folks that are interested in the environment and conservation. Sometimes we make assumptions on who people are going to be and what their interest is going to be. So we have our guard up. We were like maybe kind of defensive on how we talk with folks. I didn't know this guy. I didn't know what he was going to say, but he's like, I'm a turf guy, and I've been looking at that grass for the last 7 years. And I was like, how's it spreading so much? So he was actually really into killing this at the golf course. Um, so anyway, I'm gonna follow up with him here soon to kind of see where he's at with it. And he already researched how to do it. So that was a pretty positive interaction. Old Jeff is his name. All right. Here's one more video. I like this one. This shows the close up. Wish I could turn the sound down. I'm gonna try and not be. You ever talk on the phone when you can hear yourself at the same time you're trying to talk? It's very distracting, but I'm gonna try and do it. All right. Here's this really up close view, and it'll come into focus here. You can see the collar of the grass. That's what that's called. It's like really hairy going down the sheath, but where the leaf separates from the stem, also kind of hairy there too. There's really not a lot else that looks like that. I will say, I feel like oh well, let me do this first. Here's the shoots that come up. They're very long and they're very pointed and they're very sharp. So it's one of the ways it can penetrate through the soil, it can penetrate through leaf litter. Uh, the rhizome that's attached to the shoot, which it's going to come into view in a second here, is very small, maybe an eighth of an inch in diameter. It's very cord-like. And I don't think anything else that really looks like that. I recognize in me saying that is a little, um, you may not feel the same way if you're out in the field looking at a grass, which it may be a little harder to ID. But this whole combination of characters, these really point sharp shoots that kind of come off the stem all in one place, these little cord-like rhizomes that are small, and those leaves that come up from the ground, it all equals Kogon grass. Um, I do have a pot of Kogon grass in my house. I keep many, many plants. I'm not putting it in the ground. It's for educational purposes only. But it was growing in this 4-inch square pot, and I had it sitting on a stump outside of my front door. And I'm actually meant to have it with me, but the rhizome grew down into the wood and like pushed the pot off the ground, right? So it's so strong, it like pushed the pot so it's all on a tilt like this, right off the ground. So it's definitely um, a very vigorous species. And so she's going to keep her out in Shelby County. I would expect it to be in Shelby County, actually, way out in West Tennessee. Yeah. I mean, we don't need to go. This is the same picture from before. This is kind of like a little nerdy bit about grass parts and like the hairy sheath and the collar right there. But I think if you ever think you might see it, you can either go back to the YouTube recording of this to look at it. There's also a million pictures on the internet as well. But I'll give you my personal phone, not my work phone number. You can text me. You can email me. Like I'm happy to look at plants. I always want to look at plants. It's what I want to do every day almost. Here's a couple more pictures of the shoots and rhizomes. Again, these are off the UGA website, but very similar to what I already showed you. Sharp. Poke that rhizome into your finger, you feel it. All right. So I was able to spot when I go to South Alabama every year. So instead of going to Las Vegas and like gambling in a casino with my buddies for fun, we go to South Alabama and we like plant longleaf pine trees and go look at bogs and things like that. It's like a nerdy, like fun guy trip. We do it in the winter sometimes, but a very distinctive look of this Kogon grasses, especially during the winters, this guy on the left. It's like this weird uniform brownish straw color. And there's literally, when you're in like Mobile, Deep South, places in Mississippi, it's pretty common to see that. Nothing else looks like that to me, from my eye. You can think of Brimsedge Field, kind of like behind where he's standing. It's kind of like all straight upright. We're used to seeing that in the winter riding down the highway. But this like arching mass of dead vegetation hanging over that, it's pretty diagnostic. Similarly with the green during the year, uh, it looks like an invasive plant, right? It looks like an invasive grass. Just has that feel to it. Who's that guy? Oh, that's Alan Trentley. So we often think of invasive species as growing just in like junky areas, the side of the road or ditches or wherever. But this actually, this is a bad example. This is a ditch and it is also the side of the road. However, it is also a remnant of a very interesting grassland habitat. Um, Alan, I can't remember the county. Maybe you can put it in the chat. But this is as tall as Kogon grass got at this location, right? It's very dry. It's baked in the sun, but it looks a little bit different because it never gets any bigger there because it's a different kind of habitat. It's drier. So, but we saw that when we went to this really nice place last fall, and I was like, holy smokes, it's Kogon grass here. And interesting, some other like really smart botany types had been there that year and didn't see it, which isn't to toot our horns necessarily at all. It's just, like I said, if I hadn't spent that time in the deep south, I would have never known what this plant was. Uh, so different types of habitat, it's going to be taller or shorter or more sparse. You really got to see those flowers. That's going to really help you guys. Okay, this is the audience participation time of the presentation. It's a test. It's a little different because I don't have any leverage over you all. But when I do wildflower hikes, maybe I make people put their car keys in a like a bowl or something. And if they don't answer the questions right, then they can't leave. But I can't really do that here. So you just have to type it in the chat if you want. If you want. Yeah. All right. Is this Kogon grass? It's got kind of that white flower. It's got these big leaves. Jennifer says, "Oh, I get a bunch of no's." I bet you know what it is. Everyone knows what this is. There's harder ones, I promise. Anyone know? Anybody know what it is? That's harder to type fast. Okay. Giant reed, Arundo donax. Yes, it's a grass. Yes, it has a whitish inflorescence or flower on top, but the leaves come off that stem. That's not Kogon grass. And it's got this really humongous inflorescence too, which looks different. Everyone did good. Ooh, how about this? Our information's limited here, so it can be a little bit of a challenge. But what do we have? We see just a piece of a leaf. What do we not see? I don't know. You can't really tell how dense it is. Let's see. Maybe I don't even know the answer. No white midrib. Oh dang. Hmm. That's shocking. That's shocking news that is Kogon grass. So remember this white midrib thing. I showed you the slide, and there was one on the left that was relatively greenish, but the one on the right was really white. It's a little bit variable. So that's the annoy. I think you all, as native plant people, understand this. Biology is annoying, especially like there's certain types of people. I work with no offense, I work with engineers a lot in my last job. Biology really annoyed them. It's not that they didn't like it, but it's like that's black and white. Biology's gray. So we have to like take all the information and put it together and come with an ID in this for this plant. Um, but the midrib can be a little greener. There's probably some engineer on the call. It's going to be like, you're wrong about you're wrong about that. I'm just kidding around. Okay. Okay. Another plant. See what do we got here? Kogon grass? I don't know. Is it? We do see a white midrib. That is true. Everyone's scared to weigh in after the last one. Um, so if I was the leaves are like a little wider in the middle, maybe. Uh, so the Kogon grass had a very linear, sort of longer leaf. I feel like this thing on the right might be a little wider. Maybe it's something different. Ooh, now do you know what it is? I know somebody knows that. That's Johnson grass. So, if you think now, you see that Johnson grass, it does have a white midrib, but that has that stem that goes up and the leaves alternate and the stem goes up and the leaves come off. They're not all coming from the base. And the flower doesn't look really anything like it. So if you would have seen the flower, you would have known. All right. This was a little harder. All right. So looking on the left, you see, looks like those leaves are kind of coming off the ground. Uh, however, look at the flower. So to me, this is just me, it looks like they all kind of, there's like different segments. Like on the right, you see maybe 4 or 5 different racemes or rams that come out of one single point. So that to me looks a little different. Looks a little different. Let's see what we say. You all might know this one too. Mhm. Silvery plume grass, miscanthus. Everyone should run out to Lowe's right after this and go get some miscanthus and plant it all over. The non-native grass from Asia. I have a whole other thing maybe I'll talk about at the end of this. All right, I think this is one of the last ones. Okay. Uh, okay, so I'm talking about the grass that's sort of upright in the middle. And this is so if you're out there in the world and you're driving by and you don't see the flower, so maybe you'll never stop. But if you did, this is what you're going to see. It's like a mixture of different things growing together. This looks kind of sparse. Somebody put some flagging up there, so maybe there's a reason that they did that. I don't know. Uh, but it could also look, because on a wetter site, a little more like this. Okay, Kogan grass. This is Kogan grass. This is Kogan grass. This is a Oak Ridge site that was reported by a citizen scientist, like people like you, a woman that walked her dog over there. She reported it. She saw the flower, and she reported it, and we sprayed it and we killed it. So, but this is a drier place. It's rockier, so it wasn't this big, huge infestation like some of the other pictures show. Um, okay, this is where Alan and I saw it going down the road. The good folks at Eagle Industry lost their sign. It fell into the Kogon grass. Okay, now this one, I think this has run its course. This one is not Kogon grass, but you will see this start to flower along the interstates and different places throughout Tennessee, kind of in August. All right. And it actually does look more like Kogon grass than the others. It's not very rhizomatous. It doesn't form these big, dense stands. The grass, it's way more sparse. Um, but also, you have the flowers are in August. So it's not going to be in that May, June timeframe. So, uh, not Kogon grass. Okay, treatment. You don't need to learn this, but because you can just call us and we'll kill it probably. Uh, but fire is not something you can do. It actually really loves fire. It just encourages it. So in the deep south, where people use long fire to manage for longleaf pine, which is this native pine, uh, you have to, or it's prescribed that you treat your Kogon grass before you use fire on the site. Um, so imazapyr and glyphosate, Roundup are like the two most commonly used chemicals to treat it. I'm not an herbicide guy. I don't like it. However, this is a tool that needs to be used for any size of infestation other than like a shovelful that you can just dig up. It's impossible to get rid of it any other way, which is not great, but it's just kind of the way it is. So one of the things that moves it around is mowing during flowering times. So it does require follow-up, but control is really achievable. And folks in the Deep South have a lot of experience doing it. So Anne says, has it been found mixing in with native grasses? Yeah, so they can definitely invade higher quality grassland permanent habitats for sure. Uh, it's relatively shade tolerant, so it can persist in these understories that are kind of open, like a newly planted loblolly pine plantation. But it can also in open sites, really go crazy if the conditions are correct. All right, all right. Last time I'm going to say all this stuff, so you got to write it down. Or you can look on YouTube later. This is the 5 things you need to know. White, fluffy flower heads in the spring or early summer. Number one. Long leaves from the base of the plant, off center, mostly white, mostly midrib. There it is. Like there's two different versions of it. Very dense growth, but more vigorous on like rich or mesic sites. Hairy sheath, long cord-like rhizomes. That's it. That's all you need to know. And you'll be an expert and you can go on tour and make tens of dollars giving talks to everyone about Cogongrass. Probably less than that, actually. Money. Uh, okay. Think you found Cogongrass? Uh, so there's a couple things I'm gonna say which you can do to take action and be a part of the equivalent of Norway rats, but for Kogan here in Tennessee, brown rats. We don't call them Norway rats anymore. Brown rat. Put it up. So I would assume most of you know iNaturalist. It's the great citizen science app that uses photos to help you ID plants. It's fun. It's something I really like to do. If you haven't downloaded the app, you should. But if you ID something as Kogan grass in within the great state of Tennessee, I will receive a notification of that and I will go look at it. Um, I looked at one yesterday and it wasn't Kogan grass. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't Kogan grass. So I've just set that up on my own. It's nothing special. You could do it if you have a species of interest. But that is one way if you think you found something, just put it on iNaturalist and I'll reach out and say, yes, please tell me more about this, or I don't think that's Kogan grass. Uh-oh. Okay. Tennessee Division of Forestry report a pest. If you go to Google and type in Tennessee Division of Forestry report a pest, it takes you to a web page that looks like this on the right. And you can fill out this information. It's very simple and it's very easy. And Katie Kilborn, who is the Tennessee Division of Forestry Forest Health Specialist, will call you. She might call you the same hour. She's actually very good at her work. And her and Alan Trentley have been spraying some of these West Tennessee Kogon grass sites this year. So that is another preferred alternative for reporting a Kogon grass infestation is using this particular interface with Tennessee Division of Forestry. Um, the other one is you can just call me. You can call me, you can text me, you can email me. This is me on vacation last month in Yosemite. It was pretty good. It was pretty great. But yeah, that's all you have to do is call or text with a picture. You gotta have a picture and a location, please. But iNaturalist will perform the same function. But some people like the personal touch. They like to talk to somebody and share their concerns in the first person, and I'm happy to do that. But any three of these ways are great ways to report a potential Kogon grass sighting. And I will say that botanists, um, as a botanist previously, and a little bit now because I'm still human, we feel concerned sometimes about sharing plants that we ID with other people because as botanists, it's like old-fashioned, but we're still like the information business. So us knowing what we're talking about is like an important thing to show how good we are and why we deserve a paycheck. But The reason I bring it up is because you need not have anxiety about sharing something with me that is or isn't Kogon grass, because I just want people to learn. So if you show me something that is Kogon grass, we'll be happy. If you show me something that isn't, that's okay too. We don't need to be worried about, being wrong about things. Um, One good thing about being a little older as a botanist and not like a young person. So it's not all bad getting older. Eh, what else we got? Um, what else? Oh yeah, Miss Campus. Good Lord. So has anyone seen this growing wild on the side of the road? This miscanthus, this silvery plume grass. It's like a big box store. Uh, it's kind of a junk plant. I think it's kind of pretty actually in some ways. Um, but it's kind of becoming like a Bradford pear. So there's places in Tennessee, I don't know where everyone is across the state. There's places in Tennessee where every old field that's left and not mowed becomes 100% Bradford pear. Uh, so there's places in Tennessee with miscanthus that are becoming this way, particularly in East Tennessee along the I-40 corridor going to North Carolina. Anyone who's driven to Asheville, North Carolina lately, it is dominant and invasive along the roadsides around Hendersonville and in Asheville. If you go to the Red River Gorge in Kentucky, it's becoming a humongous problem there. Um, I thought the North Carolina Forest Service's messaging on this was very interesting as the wildfire grass. And this is not the Native Plant Society in North Carolina or a endangered species advocacy group. This is like, forest products folks. They're concerned about it because it forms these dense monoculture stands. And I would suggest you'll start to see it too, no matter where you are in Tennessee, along interstates especially, but it's starting now to spread everywhere. And I would suggest this is going to be like a big thing in the state of Tennessee moving forward. So tell people nicely in the ways we should all learn how to tell people nicely that some of these plants are bad for the ecosystem. And you probably shouldn't plant it in your yard. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think there's many things like this. There's not many things that you buy at Lowe's that end up being a train wreck. But this is one of them. Um, anyway, that's me. Vegetation ecologist, reach out. You can chat. You can email me. You can share pictures and photos. I'm happy to talk about it. Thank you for having me. How long did I talk for? It's kind of a long time, but it's good. It's good. I think we're at a good stopping point. But any questions you have, I would love to answer them. I would love to answer them.
So I want to thank you, Adam, for all this good information. I think we've been educated now as to how to identify
Good.
this plant. As we take people out into the field on our field trips, we have many more eyes out there that can look for this and report it if we find it. And it sounds like a team will be out to investigate at some point to take care of it. So now that we've been educated, let's help out and do our part to find and eradicate this invasive species before it gets any worse.
It's a great message, and I do actually think it's achievable with this one. Then we can kind of keep it under wraps. Um, Katie Kilborn, especially, I think she is doing a great job in her role at TDF, the Tennessee Division of Forestry. Uh, the fact that she's willing to go out with people like Alan and actually treat infestations in the field is That's the, that's the linchpin that we really need to be successful in this. Is to have all the ears and eyes out across Tennessee. There's an NRCS, so a Natural Resource Conservation Agent, reported an infestation in Western Highland Rim, west of Nashville, last fall. So we're starting to get trickling accounts in, and still manageable enough for us to go out and spray. So anyway, thanks for having me.
Adam, thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing more from you as you continue your research into this and other invasive plants. And we really appreciate the time tonight. This has turned out to work. Leave time for questions. If there are any more questions, please put them in the chat and we'll get those answered.
I was
Um,
just gonna say something. Because part of my job, I'm driving around looking for the Kogan grass, especially when I'm going to my natural areas. I'll take different pathways to go to a natural area just to check a different area.
Right.
One thing I notice is that, well, we all notice that the roadsides get mowed a lot. And if there's Kogan grass there, I'm not sure if I'm gonna uh, uh, identify it or see it because it's mowed down to the ground. The good thing is it's mowed and it's not going to get up and flower and seed. But if they miss a mowing, but but it's not easy. And in fact, the one that
Sure.
we found in Hickory Valley, Hardeman County, I probably drove by that population a couple times, not knew it. It was only when I was with Adam and Adam spotted it because he grew up or he worked in Alabama, right? Alabama, and where there's a lot of it. So much more use of in seeing it.
is there a particular habitat that's more prone to having Kogon grass? Or, you said it's along the highways, but is there any particular habitat? Does it like or dislike limestone? Does it like or dislike sandy areas?
I guess I would say it doesn't like wetlands. So if it's a very wet site, Kogon grass is probably not going to be present. It's probably not going to establish very well in dense shade, though it can persist in those shady conditions. So what I mean is, say you plant trees on a site and a little bit of Kogon grass gets in there. If it's like a loblolly pine plantation, it'll just kind of creep. It'll never get very thick. But then when they harvest it, like it'll go crazy and grow really fast. Um, I don't know if it has a pH tolerance, so I don't know if it's more likely to avoid the central basin in Tennessee because where the limestone glades are because of the pH. Um, I think in the deep south where it is really well established, typically sandy soils are where it is, but most of the soils are a little bit sandy down there. So I think it's kind of a generalist, but favoring more open conditions and a little bit drier. Like rich music, but not wet to dry.
Um, I, I'm sorry, Adam. I want to jump in here and just say that it looks to me like it's probably expressing all of its genes and adapting to all of not all, but every habitat that it can, thus making it as invasive as it is. So we don't necessarily know where we can predict to find it.
I think that is 100% right. Like I mentioned before, I think most biology types expected it to come up the interstates first, out of Mississippi and out of Alabama. Um, and while that will happen, having it pop up in Oak Ridge, having it pop up in Big South Fork, uh, people wouldn't have expected to see it in those places. So I think at this point, it's fair to say it can really be anywhere in the state, unfortunately.
So, Adam, is this a wildfire hazard in the fall?
Oh yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. The So one of the reasons it is really bad is that it does burn really hot. And I mentioned long leaf pine previously, and those are these like native plant habitats in the deep south mostly that are often very rich. It's basically like a prairie underneath of these thinly spaced pine trees. And when Kogon grass invades habitats like that, these native, rich, super biodiverse habitats, and then you typically would burn those, or they would burn naturally with lightning strike fires, or managers not use prescribed fire. But if Kogan grass gets into them, it's so flammable that it burns so hot that it'll kill all the trees. Um, So it can be a real wildfire risk if you have big infestations of Kogan grass and it does catch on fire. So I think similar to the way the North Carolina folks phrase that for the miscanthus as being a wildfire grass, Kogan grass can be similar in that regard.
Okay.
Okay. Again, Adam, thank you so much for your time and for taking this opportunity to educate us. And we look forward to learning more about how this goes in the future.
Will do. Yeah, maybe next time we can talk about something more positive. This is going to be positive though. We're gonna do a great job. We're gonna do a great job. All
Do you have a
right.
question, Karen?
Oh yeah. Any more questions?
No, no, I was agreeing with you. Let's hope
Good
we can
job.
eradicate it. Go for
Yeah,
it.
that's right. All right. Good night, everybody.
Okay. Good night.
Thanks a lot, Adam. That was
You're welcome.
wonderful.
Thank you all. I'm glad you liked it. Thank you.